You a bit of a video on layers and layer masking. So here I am in Photoshop, and so I already have an image that I retouched a person out of the middle, but I want to show you the basics of what's in the layers panel and then show you a bit of layer masking. So when you go over to the layers panel, I zoom over here, you see that I'm in layer 1, zoom out, and then if you look at the bottom, you'll see that there is a bunch of different options. So basically, if you have one layer, you can delete it by clicking on the delete button. You can add a new empty layer there. You can grouping a group of different layers into one folder. You can add adjustment layer, add a layer mask, add filter effects, and you can link layers. So let me show you that as we go. So I already have this, but if I were to do a Command J on a Mac, I would make a new layer copy of that exact layer. Control J on a PC. And then if I were to click the trash can icon at the bottom right, it gets rid of that layer. Here you can see it saying delete layer, layer 1 copy, yes. Now, just to show you an easier way, that if you were to either hold the Option key and click the trash can icon, it just deletes. Do a Command Z, Control Z on a PC. And another way is, as long as you have that layer selected in the layers panel, all I need to do is hit the delete key on my keyboard and it goes away. Very quick, very easy. Second option is clicking the kind of plus sign, you get a new empty layer. The way that is good is I'm going to hit the F key just so I can focus on the one image. Zoom in a little bit, Command plus on a Mac. Hold down the space bar so I can get the hand tool to just move it over. If I were to click at the bottom of the toolbar, click any color, and then choose B for brush, I'm in that new empty layer up top. Then if I were to paint, something like that, a little scribble, you'll see that the image is protected because it is on that new empty layer. I can turn it on, turn it off. I can then choose an eraser tool, hit the right bracket key a little bit, and then I can erase partial parts. If I move the opacity up to 100, I can erase very quickly those other parts. But it's its own layer, doesn't merge with the layer underneath. And then just like I showed you originally with the delete key, as long as the layer is selected, I just hit the delete key and it goes away. Third option is, say I did a Command J a few times, and these were different layers, different content. I could click the top layer, shift click the bottom layer of that sequence, and then when I click on the folder icon, the bottom of the layers panel, you get a new group. So it's a nice way to group them into one. And then Command Z, just to go over the different options. If I were to hold down the Option key while clicking the group or folder icon, it would create a new group, but it would let me name it. So I could just call it, I don't know, cave, and then it would put all those layers inside that group. Command Z to undo. And then if I do Command Z a few times, I go back to that original just layer 1 copy. So yeah, Command Z on a Mac, Control Z on a PC, multiple times is multiple undos. You can also go to the window menu at the top and choose your history, which I already have open here. And then when you have the history panel, you can go back to any stage you want, if you want. Okay, so the next icon over, now I'll kind of zoom in so you can see, is the adjustment layers. Kind of looks like a black and white cookie, partial look. If I click on that, you'll see that there's solid color, gradient, pattern, brightness, contrast, levels, curves, vibrance, hue, saturation. There's even like photo filter. So as an example, I could choose photo filter, and from here under the presets, I could choose, I don't know, say cyan, and then it's not the strongest thing. Let me do like a deep red that kind of gives a red haze over the whole thing. If I move the density slider, it gets more intense. And then if I close that properties panel, you'll see that in the layers panel, there it is as a layer on top. It's not merged with the layer underneath. And it also has what looks on the right side to be a built-in layer mask. So you either can choose things that will give you a built-in layer mask, or in the future I will show you how to add your own layer mask. Once you have a layer mask, you would just choose your brush, B for brush. I hit the right bracket a few times to make it larger. I change the flow up top here. I'll zoom in to show you. Flow up top here in my options bar to a little bit more subtle, down to say 15%. And then back in my image, as long as the toolbar at the bottom has black as the foreground color, that will paint away. See how the preview of the layer mask is all white? So when I paint black, that is erasing those particular areas. So as an example, if I go to the middle and I paint this away, it's bringing back that natural color of the rocks here, mountain rocks. Some of the green brings back as well. And then if I go over to the layer mask itself and I hold down the Option key, you'll see that this is just a preview of what a layer mask is. So anything that is white is being preserved. Anything that is gray is partially erased to show what's in the bottom layer or the layer underneath. And black is more erased. If I hit the Option key again, Alt on a PC, it brings me back to the image. If you're working on something and you want to do a quick preview, if you hold the Shift key and click, it temporarily turns off the layer mask so you can see what it looked like as a solid effect before. And then I will zoom out again, zoom back in a little bit, and then you'll see what the icon on the left, if I were to double click that, that would just open up in the properties panel that photo filter adjustment layer, and then I could either change the preset or change the density, which is the strength of it. Okay, so once again, I click on the name on the right just once, hit the delete key, it goes away. But as you can see here, I'll zoom in, there is a variety of different adjustment layers you can choose from for different effects. Okay, then you have the layer mask icon. So let me zoom in again. That's the layer mask icon, a rectangle with a circle in the middle. Zoom back out. So if I'm on a layer and I click on that, you'll see there it is. It adds that layer mask on the right. And then once again, if black is my foreground color, whatever I paint will paint through. So this is the original photo of the person standing in the middle that comes through when I paint that with black. Therefore, if I either click on the double arrow toggle or hit the X key, I can toggle black and white to be the foreground color. So when I toggle it to be white and then I paint, it's bringing back what was on that original top layer, which was the retouched version. If I want to do it quicker, I would go up to my options bar, move the flow to 100, and then when I paint, it comes all the way back. So that's how you add a layer mask to a layer for that type of creative effect. And then we have the filter effects. So there's different bevel and emboss, stroke. A lot of these are very good for text. So it's more like if I had a text layer. So I'll do that now. I'll just type in Photoshop. I double click the T in the layers panel. It selects that, and I can go right up to the options bar where the double T icon is for the options for text or character, and then click and pull and make it larger. So I'm going to make it larger. Using the move tool, I just kind of bring it to the top. And so the minute I click on that effects area and I choose, say, bevel and emboss, and I move the size slider to the right, you'll see it becomes like 3D effect. I'll just kind of zoom in so you can see the 3D look to it. And so as you can see on the left, you also have all these other different styles. So while I'm in this layer style panel, I can choose any of these different effects on the left. So while I'm here, I could just click on stroke, and then you can't really see it so much. So if I click on the color tab and click on the middle area for the color, I can choose another color. So choose blue. And then as I move the size slider, you will then see more of that kind of stroke that goes around the text, the blue stroke. Hit OK, I'm back out. And then you'll see right underneath that layer, the text layer, it says effects, and then it has listed anything I've added. So bevel and emboss, stroke, you can turn them off. So turn off stroke, you just see the word Photoshop. Turn it back on, you'll see the blue. If I turn off the eye icon to the left of the word bevel and emboss, you'll see just Photoshop without that 3D bevel and emboss effect. And then you can preview by turning the eye icon to the left of effects on or off to see that effect. And then once again, if you didn't want this layer at all, you just click on the name once, hit the delete key, and it goes away. And then the last icon on the left is just a link icon. So that would be as if I had, let me just create a new empty layer, choose the marquee, and as I click and pull, I can then just go up to edit, choose fill, and instead of say the default, which was 50% gray, I can choose foreground color, hit OK, it fills with that purple. I do a Command D on a Mac or Control D on a PC to deselect, choose my move tool, and I can move it around. And then say I wanted to do a duplicate of this, you don't have to go to the layers panel and drag it down to the plus sign to create a new duplicate. You can just, while you're in the move tool, hold down the Option key on a Mac, Alt key on a PC. You get this double arrow. So let me zoom in a little bit so you can see that. When I hold down the Option key, you get the double arrow. And then when I hold that and I Option drag, you can make another copy of that. So if I choose the top layer, it's already chosen, and I hold Shift for the second one, then when I click that link icon, it means that when I move the move tool, they move in tandem, they move together. If I click it again, I click off the top one just for layer 2. When I click, it'll move by itself. I also have, if you look in the top left of the options bar, I have auto select layer on. So that means by having that on, when I click on that layer, it chooses any layer that I click on, and then I can move it around. Okay, so that's kind of the basics of layers, and then take it a little bit further. I have a couple more images that I think will give you a better idea of how you can work with layers and layer masks. First is I have this woman photo, and I got my images from Pexels. That's pexels.com, free stock imagery. What I always tend to do is I could double click where it says background, and it would automatically make it a new layer. But what I tend to do is just do a Command J on a Mac, Control J on a PC, which just makes a new layer above it. Turn off the eye icon for the background layer, and then hit F key so we can just focus on this, Command plus to zoom in. And then what a lot of people don't know is they tend to go to, where is the selection tool? So they tend to go to the selection tool, which is about the fourth one down. If you right click, you have object selection, quick selection, magic wand. But one thing that people tend to forget is that if you go to window and you choose the properties panel, and this comes out, at the bottom is a thing called quick actions. And that uses Adobe Sensei or their artificial intelligence. And you can remove a background or select a subject just by clicking a button. So if I just click on under the quick actions, and if it looks like this, you don't see it, just hit the little triangle, and I will zoom in again to show you, little triangle to the left of quick actions to expand, and then you will see remove background, select subject. Okay, so in this case, I click on remove background, one simple click, boom, and it knocks out the background, does a very clean job, and as you can see here in the layers panel, it adds a layer mask. So black erases, white reveals. So as you can see, the black knocked out the background and kept the subject. Okay, when I get to this point, I hit the F key a couple times. Make sure I'm in the Move tool. I can just click on this layer. As I click and drag, if I hold the Shift key, it'll place it perfectly centered in this other image. Hit the F key again so I can focus on that. I'm in that top layer of the woman. I can double click where it says layer 3 and type that woman. I'm just thinking of the different things that you would do in your workflow. So that's one thing you might do, is name your layers. And so if I do Command T on a Mac, Control T on a PC, I can get the transform tool. If I do a Command 0, Control 0 on a PC, it'll show me the bounding box of that transform. If I hold down the Option key, Alt on a PC, and I click and pull the corner, I can resize the subject. Hit Enter, Return, and then here's the woman image. And then say I wanted some other creative effects. I wanted this. I've already made a new layer, but I'll just show you that again. If I'm here, hit the F key, zoom in a little bit. Always starts off as background layer. Once again, I can double click to automatically make it a layer, or I can do my preferred method of Command J, makes a layer 1. And then here's the trick. Instead of choosing, like, say, a selection tool, or even going to the properties panel, because when I went to the properties panel originally and I clicked on remove background, this is what you get. So you don't always get the best reading from Adobe Sensei Artificial Intelligence. It does its best to find the subject and removing a background, but it's not always the best. So in this case, I close the properties panel. I'm in layer 1. And in this case, I just double click where it's to the right of layer 1 title. And up comes the layer style panel. I'm going to zoom in. So with the layer style panel, let me just move this up a little bit. There's a blend if area at the bottom. Since the clouds are mostly white, I do not want to move the white slider. I want to move the black slider, so the dark areas. So what I do is I hold down the Option key, which splits the slider tab. And as I pull to the right, you'll start noticing the top area starts kind of being pulled away, starts taking away. And I'm going to zoom out. So as I zoom out and I move both of these a little bit more and more, you'll see that it knocks out a lot of the background. It looks a little funky now, but wait till you see when I hit F a couple times and bring it into the image. So holding Shift from the layers panel, I grab the top layer, pull it over, holding Shift and pulling my cursor. When I let go, then it pulls it over like that. If I do Command T, I can transform. Command 0, Control 0 on a PC, I get the bounding box. Holding the Option key on a Mac or Alt on a PC, as I click and pull in, I'm resizing it. And I could do something like that. And then it's kind of a creative effect. And then I have my layer where you can see the double box on the right, whereas if I were to double click, that would bring me back to the blend if sliders under layer style. But if I wanted to take this effect even further, I can click on, once again, zoom in, the add layer mask at the bottom of the layers panel. Zoom out again. And there you see the layer mask to the right of the cloud layer. Choose a brush. I can see the foreground is set to white, so all I do is click on the double arrow. It's now set to black. I want my flow to be lower, so I'm going to zoom in. You just hold your cursor over the word flow. You pull it down to maybe 21's fine. Zoom back out. And now with a brush, foreground set to black, and the flow set to 21. Now when I paint, I can erase certain areas. If I hit the right bracket on my keyboard, I can get a larger brush, which does a bigger area. and then I can kind of blend thing. This is more of a kind of surreal composite, but you can still do any kind of realistic composites with the same principles I showed you today. And there, make it a little bit more light there. But I like to kind of like the otherworldly quality of it. I like a little bit of that blue haze, so I keep that. And then therefore you see a creative composite. I'm going to do a little screenshot, maybe put that. And therefore, you know, it all starts from a simple background. Then I made a copy, showed you the different ways that you can duplicate different layers, bring in a subject, knock out the background, add in another effect, and then utilizing, once again, layer mask to blend and keep everything cohesive. So thank you for joining me today, and I hope that helps. Layers and layer masking in Photoshop.